Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Well, the biggest controversy in Yankee history has now reached its pinnacle point. That is with Jazz playing with a lollipop in his mouth. We saw it in Detroit, and it turns out, looking back at some old footage, this also happened again a couple months ago in Boston. Jazz also with a lollipop in his mouth at an at-bat there. So, big controversy. Everyone's weighing in on it. They always want to throw their 2 cents in. And, we've seen some big scandals in baseball. We had A-Rod with the whole Balco thing. We had Giambi and his PED use. And, the Mitchell report and all sorts of stuff. And Billy Martin and all the scandals maybe of stuff. And Whitey Ford and Mickey Mantle getting to maybe fights and stuff. But put that all aside for Jazz and the lollipop controversy. So we'll weigh in on that. But before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, wherever you get your favorite podcast. There's also a YouTube version of the show. Just dropped the latest episode a day or two ago, so you want to go check that out. So go to YouTube, search for Section 420 Talkin Yankees. Again, this big issue happened afterwards, so I didn't get a chance to address it on the YouTube channel. But that's why you want to subscribe to this audio podcast. You don't want to wait a week or 2 weeks for me to weigh on something major, such as Jazz having a lollipop during a baseball game. So in order to catch that news right away in my takes, make sure to subscribe to this audio podcast if you haven't done already. So we all saw the footage and we all seen all the memes and all the stuff like that. It's almost like I got a point with Jazz is like, I just don't even care anymore in terms of the antics. We saw the stuff with the lollipop and then of course maybe a week ago, foul ball off is, an area where as a male you don't want to get the ball hit towards and the whole stuff like that. And then the day after that, he hits a home run. And this is kind of a similar thing, all the controversy and negativity around the lollipop. And then the next game hits a big home run and helped the Yankees take a 4-3 win over Detroit. But again, maybe, if we had Jazz on the contract for a couple more years, maybe I'd be like, this guy has to get serious. There's too much with the antics and the clowning around. He can't take it. I'm not really going to get angry in that way or just get built up. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, all the stuff with him is going back to last year as well, early in the year, get himself, suspended for a game, which was going to overturn, calling out an umpire on social media after the game ended and just all the nonsense, all the antics, biting coaches and, the 50,000 gloves and all the 50,000 pairs of shoes and him being, you kind of like him being, kind of laid back and cool, but it's just, and I understand it's not the Yankee way. It's not, it has nothing to do with that. It's just, I think it does translate and it does rub off on the rest of the team. And then it's like, all right, you play with those antics, but then in a big moment of playoffs, you cough up a ground ball or you swing and miss on a big at bat. Like, I think these things do carry over there. And again, the reason I'm really not going to get worked up over it, and some other fans are, is just like, I don't think he's just going to be here after the season. So it's just sort of like, all right, just enjoy the ride, just let it go. I cannot see this organization bringing him back after this year. He's in his final year of his contract, and I figure maybe he would have better numbers just for the fact he's playing for a big deal. So maybe it benefits the Yankees where he doesn't have a super great, obviously, he promised a 50-50 season, which, that was going to happen. But does he still have an outside shot of duplicating his 30-30? Maybe. I mean, right now, he has 23 stolen bases, but only the hitting hasn't been what we've seen in the past with Jazz, hitting 230, but with only 12 home runs. He's never going to have a high batting average, but does he have an outside shot of getting really hot maybe during like July and August and maybe has a shot at 30? Maybe. So maybe it could be a 30-30 play again. But I just don't see the Yankees or any other team giving this guy a long-term deal, just with all the antics like that. And, of course, everyone waiting on the lollipop, of course, in Detroit, playing second base with a lollipop in his mouth. Is it really a big deal? No. I mean, guys have played with tobacco in their mouth and guys have played with toothpicks in their mouth and things like that. It's not the hugest deal. It's just why. It's just clownish and... you should be buttoned up a little bit more with the Yankees. And I don't know if this has to do with anything with like Judge. This is his presence when he's actively playing. Maybe Jazz doesn't do that. I don't know. I can't say that. But then, of course, we saw footage of he did this previously in Boston. Now then, there was a very freezing game. So he had one of those neck scarves around his head there. So, maybe he was able to hide it a little bit. With that, because again, this wasn't even mentioned it back then, and I didn't even know it. So maybe that had something to do with it. It's not really a big deal, but if in terms of his safety, I mean, you're going for a ground ball and you're gonna choke on the thing. Think, oh my god, then you throw it. We don't see these guys in practice, and we don't see these guys, when the cameras are off. So maybe it does this a lot. Maybe these guys do other things that if we saw every second, we'd be going nuts right now. But this is a bad look for him. I don't think he really cares, but I just think it's a bad look for the Yankees and it's a bad look for the game just to be too casual like that. And it's just, you're supposed to be taking the game serious. You're supposed to be focused on, what's the pitch, what's the account, where am I supposed to be standing, all this thing. And he's there sucking on a lollipop, and I just think it's just a bad look. And of course, Boone was, asked about it. He did his, usual spot with John Boy, and he just kind of, just said, I'm pissed off about it. He wasn't happy with it. But of course, the next game, Jazz kind of saves himself, hitting a huge 2-run home run with the Yankees down 2-1 there to swing the score to 3-2. Orson Welles, back from his IL stint, again dealing with those headaches. Also, at least showing a sign of life, getting a big RBI double as well. That would prove important to push a lead to 4-2. And an insurance run the Yankees would need, because ultimately the Yankees would end the game at 4-3 there. So again, Wells with an important insurance run and Bednar able to lock it down. And he's been a little bit better as well as lately after a bit of rocky period himself. Not that it was a huge rocky period, but nevertheless, getting back to Jazz here. And I would just say, look, just ride it out. He's not going to be here probably beyond this year. I can't see them giving him a long-term deal. He's a young guy. He's going to want a long-term deal. Maybe like a team like the Diamondbacks do, but I just can't see any interest in him just with all this clownish stuff. The only benefit is if he doesn't have like a tremendous season. Again, he's a great talent. It would it'd be nice if he was more focused and he performed better and was more consistent. But with all this baggage that comes with it, not that it's terrible. It's just if he doesn't have a great year, maybe he signs some sort of team-friendly 1 or 2 year deal where, okay, in that case, you may consider him just for the fact that because you're getting such a team-friendly contract, maybe he wants to stick around. Maybe he doesn't get a big offer because maybe everyone's feeling the same way. As like, look, I'm not giving a long-term deal to this clown, so maybe if everyone feels that way, maybe the Yankees get the benefit of that. Okay, maybe I'll be open to that idea just for getting him for a real low, market value deal. But other than that, this guy's going to be out the door. And, he did hit a clutch home run again. That was in the 6th inning and did turn the score. But let's just look back in, about the 2+ years he's been here. Has he ever gotten a big hit in the 8th or 9th inning, a big dramatic home run, big game-winning home run? No. All his offense is early on in the game when it doesn't count. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Gleyber Torres was the same way. When he was going good, he always had good stats there. But all the stuff he hit, he would make a 5-3 game. He would hit a 3-run home run to make it 8-3. But you look in the box scores. Oh wow, Gleyber Torres had 2 hits, including a 3-run home run. But yeah, the game was out of reach at that point. But then Gleyber Torres comes up in the 9th inning, in a spot where you need like a big, maybe 2-run home run to tie the game, and would never come through. And Jazz is kind of that same way. It's all hoopla and all fun and bells and whistles, and let's mic him up, and he's fun, he's exciting. But then in the clutch moments, what does he do? Nothing. You get nothing from the guy from the 7th inning on. So it's a shame too, because he's a great talent. Again, he's got the speed, he's got the power, he's got a strong arm at second base. Is he Roberto Alomar? No, but he's again, he's pretty darn good there, and it's just a shame that he can't really be a little bit more focused, a little bit more consistent of a hitter there. His at bats aren't good. He's too much of a free swinger, strikes out a lot. Again, has a lot of just unproductive at bats. But the problem is, he'll run into some home runs here and there, and then kind of like teases you a little bit. Or you see his great speed. The 20 again right now he's 23 stolen bases. It teases you like, man, if this guy could just button this up there and he could be a little bit more consistent and have better at bats and maybe do this better, he'd be such a great player, but he's not. And then you add on that all the clownish stuff that comes with him. So that's why it just doesn't bother me, because I know after this year he's not going to be there. If he goes on a great tear in the playoffs and becomes like a Reggie Jackson this October, okay, I'll change my mind about him. Where it's like, all right, well, if you could back it up and have a great October, then fine, be the clown. But the fact that you're a clown, you do some good stats there, but in the clutch moments, you kind of come up empty. And I just look back at that, Game 4 against Toronto, championship series last year. I don't know if the Yankees are going to get past Toronto anyway, but they win Game 3. They're kind of clawing back a little bit. You have Game 4 at Yankee Stadium there. And you know what? If somehow the Yankees could win that game and go back to Toronto, maybe they could make something of that. I don't think they would have, but Yankees down like 2-1 there, a couple of runners on there, and Jazz boots a pretty makeable ground ball there. And then, of course, Toronto increased the lead to 3-1. It goes to 4-1, and again, that's the end of that. Game over. That's Jazz right there. It's like all the hoopla, other stuff there, but in the big moment in the playoff when he need to be, make a pretty much not saying it super routine, but a very makeable play for a second baseman, and he booted the ball. And I just think that type of stuff rubs off. I mean, you're clowning around with a lollipop, fine until last. You're not going to do the lollipop in the playoffs, but I think that stuff carries over. And I just think the unseriousness of stuff like that is kind of what's been hurting this team in the past couple of years, why they just really haven't been able to take that extra step at all. It's kind of this lackadaisical clowning stuff. And we don't blame Boone for that. I think Judge takes things seriously. These guys, it's their job too. I mean, they gotta have a little fun, okay, and stuff like that, but just the clownish attitude with him too much there. It's just, again, and then taking the foul ball off his private parts last week with the cop. It's always something with him every week. And yet then he bops a home run and you kind of forget about it and you laugh it off. And even Boone did after the game, said fine, he gave all the lollipops he wanted because, you're feeling good. But at that moment, it's just a bad look. You just lost 3 games in a row. You lost 2 out of 3 against a Reds team that, I know Terry Francona's the manager, but still, they were absolutely just smothered the last 2 games, only scoring like 1 or 2 runs. And then you lose this game in Detroit and sort of like, you're on this losing streak and you're just sitting there with a lollipop in your mouth. That's his Jazz. we'll write it out for the rest of the summer. Hope for the best for October. But again, I just can't see him back with this team after this. And everyone's just saying the right things, but you could just tell Cashman's not happy with that. Boone's not happy with that. So as fans, just get over it. That's Jazz. They're sticking with him. I don't see them moving him at the trade deadline. I mean, someone could be interested in, but the Yankee infield situation is not great. The problems they're having, especially with Volpe as well. And now, a little bit merry-go-round. It'd be better for Cabral at shortstop, but they're putting Cabral in the outfield just because you have too many guys out like Grisham and Judge in the outfield right down there, so Cabral has to go out there. So there's a lot of problems go around. And just again, going back to Jazz's numbers, on base percentage of .315. Now, just put some perspective of Volpe, who everybody always wants to kill. Volpe's on-base percentage is about 70 points higher at .381 versus Jazz at .315. So, again, Jazz just doesn't get on base enough. He doesn't hit enough. He doesn't do enough to really warrant all this, wacky, kind of wacky stuff he does there. Take back Manny Ramirez back in with the Boston days. Yes, he was Manny being Manny, and he was do some goofy stuff, and probably turns out he was on PEDs, but he would hit 40 home runs a year and then be an all-star player and one of the most dangerous hitters in the game, and a clutch hitter in 8th and 9th inning. You did not want to see him up even against Mariano Rivera. So yeah, you could back it up there. Jazz does not have the resume to back that stuff up. Again, I'm just gonna reserve, not get upset over it, and just ride the season out. And then thanks a lot, Jazz, but see you some other time in some other team there. So that's the episode. Again, this was a big controversy. It rocked baseball. The Lollipop controversy, though. Section 420 Talkin Yankees here. I want to put my 2 cents in on that. Catch you next time.